This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast.
Hello, my baby.
Hey, honey.
This is so fun to record from a new place.
For anyone listening to this, my name's Trey. This is Lauren. Lauren is a certified holistic sexuality educator and intimacy coach. And if you're coming to this because you saw The Invite, I keep calling it The Invitation or The Interview, different movies. The Invite. If you're here because you saw The Invite, that's what we're going to be talking about for at least the next two podcasts. We could spend the next month talking about this movie. Before we get into the specifics, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
And then, what'd you think? Just of the movie, what did you think?
Oh my God. Top 5 movies that I've ever seen. I love a good human movie. Then you work in that it's about sex and intimacy and relationships and long-term partnerships. And then you work in the way that Esther Perel was the consultant on the film. Then you work in how many times you and I on this date night squeezed each other's leg. Watching it with you, one of my top 10 favorite date nights we've ever had. Best, I think I might start literally requiring it as homework.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter where you stand on so many of the sexuality topics discussed inside of the film. It is a conversation-provoking film, and that's why I love media. I think that so often we go consume media, we leave, we don't even talk about it. This is the type of film that if you saw it as a date night film, then you went to dinner and you talked about it. You talked about some of the struggles. You considered, what do we think about this, that, the other thing. You shared favorite quotes. You laughed about any of the 4 characters. Your relationship would be better for watching this film. Quite honestly. We haven't stopped talking about it.
I wake up and it's what I think about in the mornings.
Okay, for a dude who is not in the field, you are pursuing your Wheel of Consent like a pro certification because you have found so much value in it. So as a person who is in the track of learning about consent and has been a sex positive being his entire life, is married to a sexuality educator and relationship coach, but also loves a bunch of other types of films. Like, I didn't know what you would think taking you to this. Like, this was a gift for me, wouldn't you say? Like, I was talking about this.
Yeah. The whole day was like, what do you want to? We do want to, willing to days. And this was Lauren's like, babe, you take everything off your willing to list. And this is I call it the birthday day. It's like, what is just the fucking top tier shit that you want to do today? So at the end of the day, you're like, I want to do something relaxing. I want to do something where we can sit. I want to do something air conditioning. It's the summer right now. I want to watch The Invite with you. And then I checked in with myself and I was like, yeah, that's something I want to do as well.
Okay. So you came along. I invited you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's in my top 4, where I call it Mount Rushmore list, which may be problematic.
We need to update that link. We need another thing for you. Ice cream flavors. I don't know.
Whatever. So it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. And it's 4 people essentially in an apartment. And then all you're doing is like, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? The story, the scenes, what the actors are doing to each other, how it's shot, the fucking music.
The music. Let's just take a little pause because we know we're not going to dedicate this whole podcast to the music. I hope somebody out there is. I hope there are people who have entire podcasts about film scores. And I hope they do an entire podcast episode on the film score. It's beautiful. I would listen to it, except I think it would stress me the fuck out because it's written like a suspense thriller soundtrack. The music at the end, I was like, oh, I could possibly listen to this as a calming song, but everything else has you on the edge of your seat. It is genius.
Is there anything else you want to say about it before we start peppering each other with questions? And may I, putting a request out there, may I go first and ask you a question first? Is there anything else you want to say before we get into it?
Yeah, overall, I just wanted to say thank you for going with me to this film, because it was such a delight to watch my partner be on the edge of his seat like this. I'm leaning forward for those of you just listening. Then there were moments where he was cackling out loud, like at a comedy show cackling. Like Trey is he is a connoisseur of comedy, and you were so engaged. Then there were moments we were clapping, laughing, punching the air again, then like nail biting intensity. And it was just so much fun to witness you in that space. Like that alone was joy. So I just want to say thanks for coming.
Okay,
Yep.
first question to you, holistic sexuality educator and intimacy coach. Okay, there are 4 different characters, and they have names for their characters, but we have decided to call them Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, which they're married to each other, and then
the movie,
Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz, which they are boyfriend and girlfriend, like a year in their relationship. Yes. And we're assuming the married couple is 15 years deep, at least a dozen, because they have a 12-year-old kid.
Yep.
Okay, so how accurate did you find the portrayal of Penelope Cruz's character in parallel to your profession?
Ooh, pretty accurate.
She was a psychotherapist and a sexologist. Were those her titles?
She was a sexologist and psychotherapist.
Okay, so that means therapy. That means she went through like traditional to be called a therapist, where your work is not. You do not refer to the term therapist for a variety of different legal reasons. Correct?
Yeah, I didn't go to school to be a therapist.
Great. Okay, so how accurate?
I thought she did a great job, and I have seen a couple interviews that she literally patterned her character off of Esther Perel. That she watched film of hers, and I could tell like that there were certain things that she did, certain ways she held her body that were incredibly sensual and grounded and embodied and wise and thoughtful, like Esther, truly. And we'll get into the human elements of the film and how deeply we loved it for those reasons. But yeah, there were some moments where I watched her character watching the dynamic, observing Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen's characters, and I thought of similar times where I've done the same or where I've seen a therapist do the same, and you're just observing dynamics that you work on every day in your spaces. And yeah, I thought she did a good job. And there's even a moment towards the end of the film where almost she catches herself. She's been almost, in essence, doing a therapy session, and she catches herself and she goes, oh, whatever, like I'm not working. And again, I want to have an ethics conversation, and we'll get to that. But I did really enjoy some of the things that I knew she was doing that were a nod to Esther. And so, yeah, I thought she did a good job.
Can you talk about, in the Penelope Cruz, Edward Norton are dating. Mm-hmm. We find out that he was her patient.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the ethics surrounding dating, being in your field and dating a patient?
Yeah, it's kind of a big no-no.
Kind of a big no-no?
It's a huge no-no. It's an ethical violation. So what they don't, it is so interesting, again, entertainment versus reality. I am very aware that it is a very erotic scenario. Attraction plus obstacle equals excitement. And people very much love the trope of therapist and patient. It is incredibly exciting and erotic. From a ethical standpoint, it is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. They do not tell us in the film if he was her patient and then there was 5 years of expanse of time. They don't tell us in the film if she was currently married when he was her patient. They don't tell us in the film if he was currently married when he was her patient. You get this idea that she's a couples therapist, and so you wonder, she was seeing him and his wife, which then you find out, I mean, please guys, this is spoilers everywhere, but his wife has passed away. You do find this out. So you don't know a lot. And that is probably in order to make it sexy and hot. But I have a deep ethical problem with that, because it is critical that clients, as I would call them, be able to come and discuss their sexuality, their sexual interests, their sexual desires without fear of courting arousal in any type of situation. And also, like, the hierarchies of power, like, it's messed up. It's messed up. So huge ethical violation. I have a policy that, like, that's just never going to happen. Like, there are, for therapists, there's certain time frames. For educators, there's certain time frames. I just have a no-go policy.
What are those time frames?
You'd have to look it up state by state. Every state has a different jurisdiction, because you become licensed in your state in the United States of America. And so ASECT is our certifying body, and I don't even want to misquote the recent things, but it's like 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's a nice long time. It's a nice long time. And the reason being is hierarchies of power. What was the show the show about the rabbi, the woman dating the rabbi?
Netflix show.
The sister dates a guy who was her therapist. It's not okay, because what you have here is somebody who knows the patient, and then the patient feels known, but the patient doesn't know anything about the other person. It is violating. There's so much projection going on. There's so much hierarchy of power. No.
Did you see any other ethical violations that Penélope Cruz did during the movie?
Yes.
What?
So as the film goes on, you hear her share, I knew they weren't ready, but you wanted this, and I knew they weren't ready. She has a knowing that Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen's characters are in a conflicting relational space, that they are in an unhealthy space. They witness this all night. That is not a good space to enter into sexual invitations. Not at all. And she ignores her knowing. She ignores that feeling. And is just like, then at one point she was like, I knew this wasn't right, but I'm horny. And as if she's using arousal, we have a phrase in my field, which is, we never renegotiate while hot. I do not think that we all need to be 100% healed and wonderful in order to enjoy sexual encounters.
Shit, we wouldn't have any.
Fuck that. That is not what I am saying. That is not what I believe in. And yet, introducing a sexual situation in hopes to save or fix a relationship is the same as having a baby to do it. If you are taking a compulsively monogamous couple and inviting them into a sexual scenario, and you are a sexologist and psychotherapist, you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you are opening them up to. And you having more knowledge of that situation than they do, you knowing the tools for repair that are needed, you knowing that neither of them have seen their own partner with somebody else, you just inviting them into this space feels so ethically yucky. I can't even.
There's a beautiful moment where Penélope Cruz says to Seth Rogen, while they were in the office together smoking a joint, that people, they get used to surviving on crumbs.
Yes.
Which was beautiful foreshadowing to the moments that came after that of, this is a scenario right now that we can offer you. And they were like, oh yes, we'll take it. Yeah. Without any type of scaffolding or container building, like solid container building. And what I mean by that are putting in bumper rails and safeguards and binary situations where, not if, but like when big emotions come up, that you got a game plan for it.
It's like inviting someone to play any level of semi-pro sport with them not knowing the rules, them not knowing how to call a timeout, them not having a coach, it is dangerous. It's dangerous. Now, please hear me, everyone. Sex is good. Bodies are good. Pleasure is good. And what I often say is people are stupid. We have not been coached up in these things, and that's okay. That is so okay. And again, I am so here for pleasure, but for us to enter into sexual scenarios assuming everything's just going to be great and juicy and sexy, and not knowing that there are human emotions and feelings and old wounds and feelings of being left out and jealousy and all of these beautiful. And Edward Norton's character has something at some point where he says, oh, I think jealousy is a human emotion, and it shows us things. And I think I even did snaps at the screen. I am here for all of these things. And I think that people should have professionals in their corner and books on their shelves and resources and friends and community. We haven't even gotten into community. Also that. So they're...
Love it. Can we pivot to,
yes,
which we'll talk about community in a second. Can we pivot to specific relational dynamics between Rogen and Olivia, the couple, the married couple? And can I ask you, one of the biggest takeaways that I came away with, they live a life of secrecy, where there are so many secrets that they keep from each other. Can you talk about whether or not you agree, and then can you talk about the difference between secrecy and privacy and the healthy aspects of both of those things?
love it. Yeah, you definitely shared that as one of your biggest takeaways, and I loved it because the irony is throughout the whole film, they're talking about Seth Rogen's character's honesty. Love that you're so honest.
Honesty when convenient.
Yes. And
I used to work in football, and I've been around a lot of team captains that were team captains when it was convenient for them. Honesty when convenient.
Yeah. We have talked a lot about a concept on this podcast, and y'all can go back and find it if you're new here, the liar and the lie invitee. Inside of long-term partnerships, people often lie. It is very, very, very common. And what is most fascinating is we are often lying and deceiving our beloved in order to remain chosen, in order to protect the ego, in order for someone to keep me around. It usually starts from a place of altruism, this idea of it's easier this way, right? White lies, little deceitful moments that we justify it to ourselves as, well, this will help keep the peace. Well, I don't want to upset them. Well, this is easier this way. And if they just don't know.
There was a part where Olivia Wilde was so excited to say jamón because Penélope Cruz was Spanish in the film, I believe. And jamón, and when Penelope Cruz and Seth Rogen went into the room together, she goes, well, it's prosciutto. It's not. Jamón is something entirely different. And then Rogen said, I'm so glad you didn't tell her. It's like, I didn't want to say anything. I'm so glad you didn't. I think she would have thrown herself out the window. Okay. So the lie and the lie invitee and these little white lies, and the lie that I'd tell myself is, you can't handle it. Or things are going to go a lot more smoothly if I just kind of change this little detail. So what I'm basically taking away your agency.
Ding, ding. So you said it so beautifully. So the liar in this concept believes my partner can't handle the truth, when the reality is I cannot handle my own emotional response to my partner's reaction. Fascinating. The lie invitee believes I can handle the truth, when the truth is they can't handle their own emotional reaction to the truth. And there are always multiple parties at play in a lie invitee and a liar dynamic. It is fascinating. And in long-term partnerships, it usually starts very small. and grows larger and larger and larger. There were so many times, even the invitation itself, right? Even having them over. She's like, we've been talking about this for months. It was solidified. I told you yesterday. And then Penelope Cruz's character is like, I'm so shocked that you had the time to put this entire spread together. And Seth Rogen's character goes, why? And she's like, well, because we just planned it this morning. And she goes, no, it was last morning. And he's like, it's not a term. Last morning's not a term. Another lie. So Trey, your question was so good. What's the difference? Is there a value of privacy inside of long-term partnership? And what is the difference then between secrecy and privacy? This is something that is paramount for us, but also paramount for people raising any form of child, which they are in the film as well. So a secret is keeping information from another that has the potential to benefit them, educate them, inform them, or that they in any way have a right to. It is withholding, willful withholding of information that could inform another of something that they might need to help make a more informed decision of their own. Self-determination is a human right. Privacy, on the other hand, is something that we withhold that would in no way affect the well-being of another, such as my own personal masturbatory practice, what I am using in my fantasy world. When I choose to experience pleasure within my own body and have some solo sex time and celebrate with my own body, I do not need to disclose that to a single soul. I don't need to share what was in my fantasy life. I don't. That can be private.
My 4-digit PIN code.
Yes.
Which is 1234. I keep that private.
Yeah. What we do, we have individuals on the internet all the time ask us if we involve others in our sexual relationship. We keep that private. There are my daughter's face on the internet. I keep that private. Mm-hmm. Her opinions about the work that I do, I keep that private. There are beautifully important things to keep private.
You got to go to our OnlyFans account if you want any of that. Okay. Can I bounce around?
Bounce around. You asked such a good question.
Penelope Cruz at one time asks, would you fuck yourself, to both Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen? Have you ever asked that before as a sexuality educator? What does that mean? What does that question mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, that's such a good question.
And how did the two characters answer that question?
They both look at her like she's crazy. Seth Rogen, of course, with his amazing comedic timing, is like, that's all I do, right? Because he is insinuating that he jerks off and they haven't had sex in a year. I think that's why she's saying it, yes. Right? They have just revealed that they haven't had sex in a year. And, she says, let me ask you something. Would you fuck yourself? That's an Esther Perel concept. And yes, I ask it all the time, because it is absolutely critical that we see ourselves as desirable. And that is our job and our job alone. This idea of desirability, this idea of how are we cultivating a lives that make us feel fuckable? How do we nurture our own desires and interests and hobbies and joys and physical like strength, and what are we doing that allows us to be a human being who knows they're desirable? Do we look in the mirror and go, oh, I'd fuck them? It is important. We have believed falsely in especially this culture that that's somehow egotistical and narcissistic to see ourselves as desirable. But no, what that actually means is that we have self-worth. To use our buddy Schnarch's terms, that means that we have defined ourselves.
And if you reframe it as literally like an inventory check-in, you could take the narcissism and egotism off of it, and it just literally be like another thing on the list that you're trying to check off.
Mm-hmm. It also goes to the line you shared earlier about the crumbs. So what I will find is often inside of a long-term partnership, people just point the finger at each other instead of asking themselves, why am I staying with this person? And when we do not believe that we are fuckable, We will stay and we will stay and we will destroy the other person because it feels better than looking at ourselves. We can all change, and this will be a perfect place to wrap up part 1 of this podcast, and we'll do another. We as human beings will so often do anything but self-reflect and get help and get education and learn and grow and become and evolve. One of my favorite things that they say in this movie, which is directly drawn from Esther Perel's work, is that we have many marriages. We have many relationships in life. And it is up to us whether we want to have a new marriage inside of the one that we're already in, or whether we want to leave the one that we're in and go start another. But we do not have to accept crumbs. But that starts with this idea of what is my own understanding of my own worth, my own desirability, and my own fuckability.
I want to ask this. I'm going to tease this out. I'd like to ask you, would you date and sleep with Seth Rogen's character? So if you were a single woman, would you sleep with him? Why or why not? And I'd like to do the same thing for Olivia Wilde's character as well. And I'd actually like to comment on what I think of Seth Rogen as a man.
And I think I'd like to comment on what I think of Olivia Wilde's character as well.
Great.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming to this episode of the Partnership Podcast with Lauren and Trey. Take what you like, leave the rest. These are our opinions and our opinions only. I literally forgot. Does. You have a right to informed decision-making and self-determination.
Go to the website.
Go to sexedforyou.com/free consult if you want to know more about these thoughts and opinions in my little brain. Have a great rest of your day. Go watch The Invite if you haven't already. Bye.